There is a secret that most people don't know that involves this simple 3-letter misunderstood word called fat. And that secret actually opens the door to any problems anyone anywhere has ever had losing weight. Fat has gotten a bad rap. We're finally resolving once and for all and putting to rest any rumors that have been out there about this simple word, about this function of life.
You're listening to Breakthrough Radio from Breakthrough Healthcare in Jacksonville. I'm your host, Frank, here to report how to break through what's holding you back to achieving the wellness lifestyle you want. Join me as I help to bring you more self-awareness and assist Dr. Randy Haas and friends to help you increase your vitality, longevity, and enjoyment of life. It all starts right here with your next breakthrough.
And that's right here, right now. Breakthrough Radio Jacksonville and all the wattage behind us of wellness that keeps on going. And Frank here, your host, and I am extremely excited to be here with you again today. Why am I excited to be here? Because I was just talking to Dr. Haas the other day about how to be truly well. And it got me to thinking. We've been talking in the last number of episodes about body function, about body structure, and the importance of these things to the ideal body, which is actually Mother Nature's blueprint for the body, the optimum function. It's designed to do something. And as we look at the various things that can go wrong with the body and the various malfunctions that we see, one of the things that we don't consider a malfunction is weight gain, excessive weight retention, and inability to lose weight. We don't really look at those things as malfunctions so much as an aesthetic. Now, what tipped me off to this is actually something very interesting because it's something we've all said at some point in our life. It's something we've heard said, but we've taken in a completely different context than what its actual meaning is. And it made me realize that this was sort of a made-up definition that a lot of people have for this, and it's pigeonholed it into a mere aesthetic over an actual function of the body. So I want to talk to you about a very simple 3-letter word that is the most undervalued and misunderstood word, perhaps, in all of wellness. And that word is fat. And today's episode is going to be based on fat and what fat means, how it should be looked at. What is the deal with fat? Now, if that doesn't make you interested in listening, listen to this. Fat itself is not what you think it is. Fat is not a problem, first of all. That's the first thing I want you to know about fat in today's episode, that fat is not a health problem. Fat is not a health condition. Fat is not even a description. Fat has become an adjective in this language. That person is fat. Or, this makes me look fat. I look fat, which means overweight. So weight is sort of in this same category, but let's set that aside for another episode because we really need to concentrate on fat in this episode because I want to disabuse you of the idea that fat is a condition or a description. Fat is actually a function of life. Fat is something to be looked at and studied in a way that will help you unlock the mysteries that are weight loss. There is a secret that most people don't know that involves this simple 3-letter misunderstood word called fat. And that secret actually opens the door to any problems anyone anywhere has ever had to losing weight. And we're about to reveal that in this episode. And that's what makes me so excited to bring this to you today, because we're finally resolving once and for all and putting to rest any rumors that have been out there about this simple word, about this function of life. Fat has gotten a bad rap. Now let's unwrapify it a little bit. What is fat? What is this function and what is this mystery? What does it unlock so well? Well, first of all, I need to invite you to understand function. And for that, you need to understand structure. So you need to listen to, if you have not already, the first 5 episodes of this show. Breakthrough Radio Jacksonville, episodes 1 through 5, cover that. And as a matter of fact, episode 5 covered posture in relation to weight loss, which absolutely covered the structure that lies beneath function. But it also covered function. And what we're getting into now is not a full-blown episode on every function of the body, but we're going to look at just one function. You're about to understand not only what the mysteries are beneath it, but how to use that to your advantage, especially if you've ever had any problem losing weight, if you've ever retained weight without being able to take it off, if you've never been able to have lasting weight loss. And by the end of this episode, we're not even going to be calling it weight gain, weight loss, weight retention, weight trouble. If you're having a problem that you're describing as overweight, it involves this subject here, fat. But what about this fat? What about fat itself? What is fat? Fat is a series of cells. There's not really such a thing as being fat. If you were going to be fat, you would literally have to live your life as a fat cell. Fat is included in cells of the body. These fat cells contain fat. And fat itself has a singular function that's paramount. And that function is very surprisingly to me, to many people, because I would think that everybody knows this, whereas everybody thinks something just a little bit different. Fat's primary purpose is energy. Energy for you to do the things that you need to do. Now, what about sugar? What about carbohydrates? Aren't they how we get our energy? Well, I'm not here to argue over what types of energy the body should operate on. All I know is this. Fat is a fuel. Where are carbs related? Where is sugar related? Well, I can tell you one thing. Fat comes from somewhere. It's produced energy. So this is what's really interesting. You would think what you eat out of your diet is pure fuel, and you burn it like the gasoline that you put into your gas tank in your car. Okay, and oftentimes there are fuels that do just that. If you've ever had a little bit of caffeine jolt in your coffee there, or if you've ever had some chocolate or some sugar and you've gotten that quick surge of energy, you were quickly burning up energy, and that's what happens with carbohydrates. But something else very interesting happens with those carbohydrates. They trigger certain hormones, and at least one of those hormones, and there are 6 of these types of hormones, actually are producers of fat. So when you eat carbohydrates, you produce a reserve of fat in your body. So it's interesting. You take in one fuel, you expend it very quickly, but it also triggers another manufacturing process in your body. And that manufacturing process starts to generate fat. Now, since you may not need the energy right then and there, and depending on how much fat your body produced, you may not need all of the energy it produced. It's got to do something with it. It's got to deposit it somewhere for future use by the body. So fat is actually an energy reserve. And what you could call it is potential energy. When you're looking at fat, that's what you're seeing. Now, think about the way our society is rigged right now. Why did we even have fat move over from a noun to an adjective? How did fat become some way of describing an unpleasant looking thing, an aesthetic, if you will? How did that happen? Well, regardless of how it happened, and while we could theorize on all of that, the actual thing about fat is it is potential energy. And fat itself, believe it or not, could be burned by the body if you intake it as fuel. When you eat good sources of fat in your diet, you do have the capability, in fact, should be able to burn it in your diet. That's basically what these keto diets are about. Essentially what that means is you're surviving, you're getting your energy from fat from foods. You're burning fat energy, not sugar fuel or carbohydrates. And that's what a keto diet is. It's an ideal diet because the body is actually apparently supposed to run on this stuff. But if your body cannot convert it into usable energy, it will still store it and it will accumulate and it will increase your size or your girth. And that will be very apparent to the eye. Now, that's very interesting that it shows up so obviously. It's almost as if, by design, Mother Nature intended it that way. How many times have we looked in the mirror and said, I really want to shape my waist better, or I really dislike these love handles. It's almost as though it's built into nature for us to look at it and recognize it as something that's not quite where it's supposed to be. Now, that is nothing in comparison to the fact that fat is indeed biologically energy, and it is intended to be burned and used. That means it's not supposed to accumulate and hang around for very long. And if it is, there are one of several problems, almost an infinite amount of problems, causing that condition. So being overweight or being quote-unquote fat is not a condition. It's actually a symptom of a condition. Now, a lot of people get told by their doctors, you really need to lose some weight so we can get you healthy because you're very sick right now, and maybe you have one of these diseases that they commonly associate with being overweight, the overweight condition. They're always saying weight, right? You hear things like diabetes and hypertension, high blood pressure, right? All kinds of malfunctions in the body that doctors commonly tell us that we need to lose weight so that we can get healthy, when in actual fact, that overweight, that excess fat that's hanging around is actually the symptom itself of something malfunctioning in the body. Now, how does fat reduce? It reduces by the body actually digging into that reserve and using it and burning it. What you're looking at when you see excess fat on the body or any fat on the body is you're looking at something on the same order of the wood pile out in front of someone's house up north during the wintertime who has a wood-burning stove or a fireplace. That's potential energy. It's potential energy. It's in reserve waiting to be utilized. Now, just as you can take wood off of the pile, put it into the fireplace, light it on fire, so does the body operate that way as well. The body knows how to utilize and burn the fat. But just as you can have a malfunction in your wood-burning stove where the chimney gets blocked or something can happen to malfunction and not be able to utilize that fuel to burn, that reserve is going to sit there. It's not going to burn. And it's the same thing with the fat on your body. And the interesting part is, one of the reasons why this gets so confusing is we get so caught up in fat being part of somebody, being comparable to their personality or something to identify with, when all we're talking about is a symptom, a distorted shape of the body. Now, what the problems are that cause that are numerous, but you can find a lot of those problems in the episodes of this show. Just for instance, episode 5 was about posture and weight loss, whereas the structure of the body going off its original form from the original blueprint, creating interferences in communication in the body which don't allow the body to tap in and use its fat reserves, or makes it start producing excess fat, or doing any combination of things that add up to unwanted extra fat on the body, unaesthetic or not, unwanted or not, just unreasonable or illogical fat buildups in the body. It's not natural for the body to look that way. But looks have nothing to do with it except to be a sign, something obvious for you to be able to look at so that you can address it. It serves the same function as pain. Pain's only function is an alert. It's an alert system to tell you to look deeper to find out what's wrong. Deadening the pain or trying to just get rid of excess fat without establishing the true cause of it doesn't give any lasting relief or results. And as a matter of fact, allows the real condition to go on and worsen over time, often below our awareness, often leading us to a point where it's actually too late to do anything about it because we handled the wrong thing. That's not motivated by beauty. That's motivated by wellness. And of course, everyone should be positive about their body and not ashamed or anything like this. But when you understand the mechanics, Mother Nature's blueprint, and you can see what the purpose of the body is and what its function is, then you understand optimum, then you understand malfunction. Then when you look at fat, you don't see an aesthetic. You see an abundance of accumulated potential energy that's not being utilized and that continues to accumulate. Allowing that to continue is not body positivity at that point. But you should definitely understand how the body works and understand that when you're looking at that, you're looking at a symptom and there are other things to be looked at. What I'm talking about here is the confusion that gets into the subject. You see, the word fat is actually a type of cell. It's a type of material that's tantamount to wood or to gasoline or heating oil or rocket fuel. It's the same type of material and it has a use. And when it accumulates, it's a symptom that something didn't do what it was supposed to do. And that is a health problem right there. The weight isn't the health problem. Obesity isn't the health problem. Obesity is a condition where too much potential energy is accumulating and not enough burning is going on. And in most cases, zero burning is going on. And the body's living off of sugar fuel and whatever it can get from any source, including your muscles, to get that sugar. And it's leaving that fat to accumulate. And it's accumulating more and more and more of it. And it's not coming from the fat in your diet. It's coming from the very sugars it's pulling from all these other resources, which is triggering a mechanism that's building it up. The body should have only a certain amount of that potential energy at any given time, and there should be a balance of how much of that fat is being created and stored, how much is being burned, and it should be a pretty well even balance, and the body should take on the shape of the blueprint. And although everyone's body is slightly different, they all have the same equipment, they all have the same mechanics, and they're all built and based upon the same structure. There are different brands and different combinations and infinite combinations, as a matter of fact, of malfunction in the body. There are infinite ways that these processes can go wrong and off the rails. And that's why diets don't work. That's why getting onto any arbitrary diet for 10 people will work and why it won't. And why some people can, quote, eat anything they want and why you have one little 2-ounce piece of candy and you gain 5 pounds that it takes you 3 weeks to take back off. That is the key difference. So, what is fat? Fat is not a condition. It's not an aesthetic. It is not an identity. It is part of the functions that the body is designed to perform, and it itself is a fuel that the body uses and has the capability of manufacturing and also has the capability of burning, either from its own resources that it itself creates or from external ones. However, certain dietary things and certain internal malfunctions can block the use of internal or external fat. And that is the mystery that needs to be unraveled to be able to be successful. That's how you resolve weight loss and get permanent resolution of weight loss. That's how you lose weight and keep it off. Now, here at Breakthrough Healthcare, Dr. has put in place 4 component arms that are related to weight loss. Now, do you look aesthetically better? Do you feel better? Do you like how you look? That does happen and can happen. But A, it's not the main focus, and B, it's a mere side effect of getting the body well. That is the real benefit, getting the body well. And the real breakthrough here at Breakthrough Healthcare by Dr. Has is the 4 various things that he brings to the table that enable this to happen. It starts with him being a chiropractor. We need to make sure that structure is right on point and right on blueprint. And if it's off, we need to get it back to blueprint, because if it's off, it's going to interfere with function. 90% of that chiropractic arm is diagnostic in nature. It's investigatory to find what structural things are occurring in the body that's blocking nerve energy flow, because that is public enemy number 1 when it comes to body function. The most obvious thing would be the structure, but it's the most ignored. But for chiropractors, it's first, and for that, 90% of it is diagnostic, only 10% therapeutic. Next is another 90% diagnostic tool, and that's nutrition response testing, which is based on these same mechanics. but it looks at not only the communication between the organs, the body systems, the glands, and so on, and the structural influence on it, but it also looks at their individual function, their individual capability, wear and tear, all of those things, and uses that as a diagnostic tool to know which areas of the body are so affected and why, and is there a defect in that specific area with that specific process or organ. This takes it a giant leap further than just chiropractic care. But again, only 10% therapeutic, which would then be handled nutritionally. And you're going to look at diet, and you're going to look at food intake, and you're going to look at triggering of hormones, electrolyte particles, and different things like this. These are all covered by those two. Then you have the ChiroThin program predicated on these things. ChiroThin is actually based on Mother Nature's blueprint of the body and is a plan that's put together. So that's more the therapeutic arm, which is the long-term plan that you're going to do to actually, in a very short time, correct the problem and watch the weight start coming off. And then the final breakthrough, many people on the ChiroThin program have lost a good chunk, noticeable, significant amount of weight in 4 to 6 weeks. But healing the body is a funny thing, because whether or not it takes 4 to 6 weeks or it takes longer than that, that's still a little bit of time. And it can be discouraging when you don't see the results, because now that you know what this is a symptom of, you're certainly going to want to see results and watch that fat go away, because that's going to encourage you as you see your size changing. And so body sculpting, instant fat sculpting, actually can be added to that. What we're talking about here is ultrasound cavitation, the use of sound waves that are similar to the sound waves you use when you get an ultrasound diagnostic scan, or the ultrasound when somebody's trying to check the health of a fetus. But the ultrasound cavitation is designed to get just below the surface where that fat layer is that causes all the trouble, and actually start shaping it by helping that process along and removing those fat cells sooner, flushing the body of it, and seeing instant results. And ultrasound cavitation is an amazing technology in and of itself, but with the technology Dr. Has is using, a major breakthrough in that adds 2 other technologies that actually tighten up the skin in the process. So what he's doing here is he's addressing the correct problem. He's finding the exact source of the weight gain and the reason why the body's not burning fat. Then he's putting a person on a program that will very quickly get them into a position where they're going to lose all that excess weight, meaning they're going to start burning and using that fuel the way it was intended, only taking in what they need and using what they need, and not having any excess buildup, and having it function per blueprint. Doing that, and then on top of that, making visible results happen quicker, faster, immediate. And tightening up the skin so there's no loose skin involved. Because let's face it, if you're going to lose an inch, let's say, very quickly, or even in one session, which has been done with this technology, no promises made, results vary. There's also some qualifications for this technology. There are certain health conditions that you can't have to be able to have this, but provided you are a candidate for it, some people have seen as much as an inch disappear off a trouble area in one session. Imagine the amount of loose skin that would amount to if it didn't have the further technology to stimulate collagen and tighten up the skin. And you can imagine only from there forward the anti-aging applications where it goes. It's actually done in the hands right here at Breakthrough Healthcare by a licensed esthetician, as a matter of fact. So someone whose specialist is the skin is actually working on that in the clinic. So the breakthrough here at Breakthrough Healthcare in weight loss actually has little to do with weight. And it has everything to do with function. And restoring that function puts everything to right faster than doing it the hard way. And why would you want to do it the hard way? By looking at it as an aesthetic and working so hard at the gym and on diets and deprivation and starving yourself and cutting calories and suffering, when you could get to the bottom of why your body is malfunctioning in the first place and not fight it, but work with the body and rebuild the body that's supposed to be there. Because when you rebuild that, the body takes the shape that it's supposed to have, and it's a lot different than what most people are seeing now. And that has everything to do with their control over it. And it puts you in the driver's seat, not the doctor, not some person who wrote a book on weight loss, not a personal trainer, but you, the person who should be in control of that body because you understand how it functions. I want to thank you for being part of today's episode. And yes, you are part of this show. You are the most important part of this show. I certainly do appreciate you listening, and I hope that you found the information today of benefit and that you had your own personal breakthrough. That is the reason we exist in practice. Under the leadership of Dr. Randall Haas, Breakthrough Healthcare has the goal of putting Mother Nature's blueprint back into the hands of its rightful owner, and that is you. And by doing so, getting you to understand function and structure inherently so you can take control of that and achieve what that blueprint has dictated by its design, which is an optimum function of that body far beyond what your expectations of it ever have been. And when you find that out, you will be amazed. So call Breakthrough Healthcare today, 904-260-1993, and ask for a consultation with Dr. Haas, whether it's on the subject of weight loss or nutrition or some other symptom that your body is suffering from, some malfunction that's going on. It all starts with a little pre-screening. Now, I invite you to listen to episode 5 because I told you how to screen yourself for posture issues there, and posture issues are a pretty major indicator of the most basic malfunction of all, and that's a malfunction of structure itself, which interferes with body function. So check yourself with that, but do give us a call. Again, it's 904-260-1993, and we'll wait for your call. And I will be waiting for you right here to return for yet another episode of Breakthrough Radio Jacksonville. See you next time. Be good.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Breakthrough Radio Podcast, a broadcast wellness production powered by Breakthrough Healthcare. Executive producer and host, Frank Sardella. For more information, visit breakthroughradiopodcast.com.